Welcome everyone to Kwanzaa with Baba Baxter. G-Mac, were you about to say something? You want me to go ahead?
You
Okay.
go.
Okay. Welcome everyone to Kwanzaa with Baba Baxter. My name is Sherry Smith. We just want to welcome you guys today. Tonight we're going to be having an engaging discussion about Kwanzaa, which is our 7-day celebration every year. Today is the third day of Kwanzaa, where we celebrate Ujima, which means collective work and responsibility. Baba Baxter and his team of advocates are hosting an online discussion tonight that we hope will merge ceremony and symbolism into practice, action, and implementation. Ujima is to build and maintain our community and make our brothers and sisters' problems our problems and to solve them together. So hopefully you all came with open hearts and minds ready to be interactive and take part in not only the discussion, but activities to help bridge gaps in our community that we think will make it better for everyone to work collectively together. And now GMAC will be doing our libations.
Yes, indeed. And so, in the spirit and the tradition of African celebrations, we're going to be opening up with the pouring of libations. If you all give me just one moment, I'm going to grab the plant and the water to make that happen. While I'm doing that, Baba Baxter, if you will, maybe say a word or two to keep the space um, occupied. That would be helpful. Thank you.
Well, sure, GMAC. I appreciate all of the advocates who have made this possible, this event possible. I could not have done this. We could not have done this, and particularly myself as a person with disabilities, without the support of the advocates. I just want to give a shout out to GMAC Greg McKenzie, Azizi Jasper, Sherry Smith, Hongwisa, Catherine Brown, and all of the core group of people who have made this event possible today. And we're hoping that this will just be the beginning of actually practicing this cooperative support and effort. So GMAC, are you ready? Or you still need some more time?
I'm ready. I was just getting unmuted. Okay, so again, I'm G Mac. Thank you all for attending today's celebration. I'm sure that you will have many enlightening moments along the way as we share. I'm going to start off by welcoming our ancestors to join us in today's event because knowing and understanding that none of us got here by ourselves, we come from those who brought us to the planet via our mothers and our fathers who come from mothers and fathers. And so in understanding that connection to our past, we want to honor those who have come before us and welcome their energy and their spirit to be around us as we move through this event. And so I'm going to do a really brief libation. I'm going to ask that others who may wish to welcome the spirits of their ancestors into the space to do so by typing their names into the comment section if they wish, or by reciting those names aloud along with us while we do the libations that we'll do here. I'm just going to hit 3 periods in history. We're going to go antiquity, recent history, and then someone from my own personal experience. And so I'm going to start out in antiquity with someone who is known and given the title of Kandake. There's some dispute about the name, but some historians say the name is Amanirenas. This person was a queen from the Kushite Empire, and she is famous for her fighting spirit and the wars that she had with the Romans who were coming in and invading north in what is known as Kemet, or some folks might say Egypt. But the bottom line is, in one of those battles, while she was taking the heads of those who she was fighting with, she ended up having one of her eyes removed in that battle. And so you may hear her referred to as the one-eyed Candace, because Candace is the modern iteration of the title Kandake, which is Queen Mother. But the bottom line is, in her spirit and in her honor, and in the idea of those who live their life one way, and then because life happens, their abilities are changed. She still went on after having that eye dug out to be a fierce ruler and head of state, and someone who held it down for the Kushite Empire. So in her spirit and her honor, we say Ashe. And then to bring it up to a more recent period in history, one of our great and mighty ancestors, who was responsible for getting many of us over the hump as it relates to enslavement to freedom. She's pictured here behind my Kanara, none other than Harriet Tubman. Many of you do not know had a disability as well. But in spite of whatever limitations were presented, she did things that only superheroes could be called out as doing. And so in that spirit and in that tradition, and understanding that there are no limitations, except for those that we accept, we say to her, Ashe. And then finally, we're going to go with one last libation, someone from my own personal life. The first two that I've paid homage to have been women that come through our lineage and tradition. My last one is going to be to a male that came through our lineage and tradition, and this is Elder Tagamba Haru. He's someone who I personally learned how to read and write, some basic elements of the meta nature. I also learned some things from him about home repair and, in general, just manhood lessons overall. And so basically, many people didn't know, because he was a very successful and a very conscientious person, that he had some mental challenges and disabilities that would, present themselves in ways that made things problematic for him. But he didn't let that stop him from continuing his scholarship and continuing his liberation, his fight for the liberation of our people. And so in his spirit and in his tradition, I want to say Ashe. And finally, I want to acknowledge that time is an interconnected thing, right? And so the beginning and the past all wrap around into a circle, an eternal now, if you will. And so there'll be young people who will become older people, and folks who haven't even born yet who will become great fighters on the behalf of our people for our liberation. For them and the great works that they do, we like to say one last libation, pour one last libation to them and say Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. While I was doing the libations, I noticed that there was some communication in the chat. I do think that there may be a need to pause the program for a moment while we work some technical difficulties out in the background. Diligently in the background, helping us to pull this together. I just want to say, as a sidebar for the record, another group that I'm a part of, we had a Kwanzaa celebration yesterday that was hacked and bombed by folks who would like to have nothing better else to do than to try to interrupt the sacred ceremony of cultural relevance and importance. And so, but shout out to Sherry Smith, who was there playing our own version of Pokemon and erasing and deleting folks as they popped up and did what they thought they was gonna do to disrupt everything. We kept it moving, and we had our celebration, our ceremony regardless. And so today we did work the technology out to be able to make this thing stream through Facebook so that we would not have that same interruption type of situation jumping off. So at this point, we're gonna keep the program moving. The next person to give us a Kwanzaa explanation that we're gonna call to the mic is Baba Z, Brother ZZ Jasper.
Jennifer T just sent.
I got it.
All right. Can everybody hear me? Okay, wonderful. So just briefly, Kwanzaa, for those that may not know, is a holiday, African American holiday, an African holiday that's unique to many others because the principles can be carried on year round and are to be carried on year round. A little bit of information on Kwanzaa's founder, Dr. Maulana Karenga. After meeting Malcolm X as a college student in the 60s, Karenga became politically energized and helped found the US organization, which among other things promoted a cultural revolution for African Americans. In 1966, Karenga created Kwanzaa, a holiday designed to celebrate and honor the values of ancient African cultures and inspire African Americans to greater pride in our heritage. Kwanzaa is based on the year-end harvest festivals that have taken place throughout Africa for thousands of years. The name comes from the Swahili phrase, Matunda ya Kwanzaa, which means first fruits of harvest. Karenga chose the phrase from Swahili because the language is used by various other Africans throughout the continent and the globe. Kwanzaa has 7 principles, also known as the Nguzo Saba. And we're going to be speaking today on Ujima, and that's collective work and responsibility, amongst others. Thank you.
This is Baba Baxter. In the chat, some people are still having problems getting on. Some of us are on the live feed, but others are still having problems. This is coming from the tech department, from Catherine.
Is it okay if I pause and restart the live stream?
I don't have any objections if you think that will solve the issue.
That's fine, Catherine, but what I'm noticing is that Facebook, it's not allowing, if it's going in and out, but it's still on. You're still live on Facebook, but it's going in. There's a number of glitches, but you're still on Facebook. It's still working. But yeah, go ahead and try refreshing.
Okay, thanks. So one moment, please.
Thanks, Z, for that explanation and description of Kwanzaa. That's going to bring us to the next part of our program, which is going to be, I believe, our youth are going to light the candles for us. Am I right about that, Mama Sherry?
Yes, G-Mac.
Yeah. And so let me say this quickly too. So we appreciate in advance everybody's patience in this process. This new virtual reality, in some instances, can be virtual insanity, virtual calamity, or all of that. But we the lemonade people. You know, if we take lemons, we make lemonade. We turn nothing into something. And so even amongst the challenges of the virtual environment, we're gonna navigate it and still have a good program, glitches and all. So I just wanted to put that into space. I'm thanking you all in advance for your patience in working through this process with us that's new to us all. All right, all right. Thank y'all for lighting us up. Um, got the audio loop tried to steal the show, but the babies always win. So we in the mix. We are officially candle lit, and at this part of the program, we had a scheduled performance from a young drummer from our Keebaline village, brother by the name of Germany Brown. Is Germany on the Zoom call? If you are, unmute yourself, and if not, what we can do is we can defer that to the part when he actually appears and do it then. And that looks like where we're headed. So Sherry, my fearless co-hostess.
I'm right here, G-Mac.
Bet. All right. Let's move right into that initial activity. And I know the one that's first that we're dealing with is going to be the one where we're not going to do the screen share one on this one, Sherry. We're going to go into the screen share one second. The first one, we'll do the shoe tying activity, which is activity number 2 on page 15 from the packet that we have. Let me share with you all that it's our hope that through this celebration and through this event that we're doing here today, we give people an opportunity to really take a deep dive into an area that many folks just kind of turned a blind eye to, because it's just not their reality. Imagine how folks move through the world where they have additional disabilities that you don't, and that causes challenges that you don't necessarily know exist. That's what we really want to put ourselves in the mind state of, so that we can realize the importance of collectively working and being responsible for the entire community, and not just those who we are encountering on a everyday basis, who don't really face the challenges that some other people do. So in the spirit of that, Sherry, I'm gonna ask you to back me up. Have you had an opportunity to pull up the activity?
Yes, G-Mac, I have it.
Fantastic. Can you roll it out for us?
Sure thing. So this activity is called using one hand. Give me 1 second, G-Mac. I wanna exit out of my other Zoom phone because it was giving me more feedback.
All right.
So what we're gonna do is, if everyone could collect a shoe that has laces that need to be tied, and if you don't have access to one, just use your imagination. Today, we're gonna use both of our hands to tie our shoe. To untie our shoe. And so most of you probably use 2 hands to tie your shoes on a daily basis. So if you can get that shoe untied, let's get this guy going. We got candles. And if you have your shoe in front of you, G-Mac has his shoe with laces. All right, so we're gonna get the shoes untied. And then we're gonna use only one hand this time. Are you all untied, G-Mac?
I'm all untied.
All right, so now we're gonna take one hand, whichever hand you wanna remove, take away one hand, and you're gonna attempt to tie this shoe for us with just one of your hands. So you're going with the right, okay. Going with the right hand. It's a good move, making the loops first. Okay, taking it slow. All right, okay, so I see you done made the crossover. All right, now it's about to get interesting. We got a loop, we holding it with one, we're trying to, okay, how we gonna get it around? Get it under, oh, wait, hold up. Might need to loop it again. Might need another loop. I don't know. You might need to put the loop under one of those hooks while you wrap
I
it.
do the bunny ear tactic.
Right. Okay. So you got 2 ears and you gonna twist them. Okay. This is
How
phenomenal.
long I got to try to do this?
Oh man, your time up. No, your time is done. No, sorry. I was just trying to help you. So this doesn't.
Allotting 5 minutes, right?
I mean 5. I feel like 1. Not like 1 minute to tie your shoe,
Yeah.
and your time is up. It's man, G-Mac, what happened? You had your money ears and everything. What happened to them? I mean, you almost did it. You almost did it. And so, with this activity, what we want people to imagine and experience is what it is like to have a physical disability and suddenly not be able to do the things that you would normally do. These are many things that we all take for granted, tying a shoe, but there are many people who have basic everyday things like this, tying a shoe, opening a door, opening a window, that are very difficult to do when we don't have the full use of all of our limbs. And so after this activity, GMAC, are we going back into the performance?
So let's put the call out one more time for Germany Brown. Is Germany Brown on the call on the Zoom? Okay. And so our other the dancer, she had car trouble and some other things, and so she's not gonna make it at all. But at some point, Germany will appear, and
Okay.
we'll let him bless us with the drums.
Definitely.
But at this stage of the game, we like to take a second out and thank everybody who's here. Who I understand that there was some difficulty in getting to the link on the Facebook page, and I'm hopeful that we've been able to navigate most of those difficulties and get the people who want to be here. And we'd like to get into our discussion. You know, there's a very real reason why we're here, in addition to the fact that it's Kwanzaa time and Ujima's collective working responsibility. And as Baba Z indicated, Kwanzaa is a unique holiday in that the principles that are laid out in such a way that they're intended to be followed daily for the entire year. That's why it's on a format of 7. And so you can replicate and start over fresh each week. Baba Baxter in particular has indicated in many conversations that we oftentimes see that we don't do that. You know, we do Kwanzaa for 1 week and then we through with it. And so I'm thinking that the thing to do is just take this moment out and realize that, hey, we can go ahead and reset every week and get started brand new with Umoja and roll Kwanzaa through the entire rest of the year.
Absolutely.
So I'm personally going to take that challenge this year to sign on and do that. And I'm going to encourage you all, whoever has the capacity or the desire to sign on and do that as well. But with that brief foundation being laid, I know I want to call to the mic, and I'm saying mic, y'all, because I'm so used to doing this in person. And I'm trying to make it more like what I like. Anyway, we'll call to the mic none other than Baba Baxter to get into our discussion.
Well, thank you very much, GMAC. Ujima collective work and responsibility. For those of you who are familiar with the Bible, one of the most widely used phrases is faith without work is dead. And that means a lot to me because I know that in looking at the principles of Kwanzaa, Kwanzaa is not necessarily, to me, a holiday. It's not associated with any kind of religion. It is an attempt on the part of someone who became woke at some point and decided to craft some principles to guide us on how we should live. Unity, self-determination, what we are practicing and celebrating today, which is collective work and responsibility, and so on. None of these principles can work individually. They all rely on each other. They are interconnected. And we have to practice them as such. Today I want to talk about how does the practice of Kwanzaa, the principles, how does it affect someone like myself, someone who is living with disabilities, with challenges? Many people have different ways to define and describe our circumstances. Whatever is most comfortable for you that does not offend others is always recommended. There's a word that I would like for everyone to become very familiar with. That word is ableism. Ableism is a systemic construct where people who have their physical and mental abilities and they are not impaired and do not interrupt the performance of their life activities. Those people, they make all the rules. They determine how everyone is going to live. Even basic needs, shelter, and so on and so forth. And because of that narrow perspective and one-sided way of controlling the way all of us have to live, it becomes discriminatory towards those who don't have all of their abilities and need accommodations in order to have access to live and to perform daily living. My personal struggle began in 2005 when I was in an auto accident. And then I learned that people did not view me the same way that they had previously perceived me and viewed me and responded to me as an able person. Now I was someone that they were not comfortable with. and therefore I was treated differently. I have experienced mistreatment for the most part as a result of those perceptions. And so now I am committed, as well as others, to make sure that this kind of perceptions are dismantled. Ableism must be dismantled, just like we say racism must be dismantled. If we do not dismantle and we do not actively, because we're not just going to be able to pray this stuff away with the faith. If we are not actively about trying to correct these kinds of perceptions that ostracize and prevent so many of us from enjoying life, then we are going to be doomed to continue to repeat our mistakes. If someone discriminates against you on a personal level, it does not affect you in the same way that if there's a system that is in place that is discriminating against you. And I really need people to understand the biggest issue is not how you feel about me personally. It's the system that I am forced to live in that is discriminating against me and holding me back and preventing me from, as I said before, being included and living life to the fullest. Now, the part of Ujima that talks about collective responsibility, the word responsibility is two words: respond and ability. We have the ability to do things and to make things better. The question is, how are we going to respond to the call to act? The response is on us. When we see something that is hurting someone, how do we respond? Someone is telling a joke, making fun of a person with disabilities. Do we tell them to stop joking, or do we go along with it and hold our true feelings on the inside? That is a decision, that is a choice that each of us must make. How are we committed towards these principles? Are we halfway committed or are we fully committed? That would determine the success of living out the principles of Kwanzaa. I want to talk a little bit about privilege. Because when we talk about systemic discrimination, whether it's racism or ableism, and people are being held back from fully having access and living their lives. As we know, as we talk about Black Lives Mattering, that is a question that only needs to be asked because as we look around and we see examples every day of how Black lives are not mattering systemically. Police killing Black people, when we know that if those Black people were white, chances are they would not be killed. That is the only question you have to ask. When you're looking at whether or not you know something is wrong, is they say, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Or how would you feel if this was happening to you? How would you feel if this was someone that you love that was being shot down in the street? Many of the killings that are taking place that are affecting the Black community, many of these people have disabilities. They don't necessarily identify as being disabled. When we look at Sandra Bland, we look at George Floyd, we look at all these different people, one thing that they all have in common, that every Black person in this, what is now called United States of America, has in common. We are all traumatized by the effects of slavery. Every last one of us has ancestors who, within their DNA, the trauma was forced upon them and then transmitted down to us, which is my theory and some other people's theory as to why so many Black people suffer from high blood pressure. Yes, we can attribute some of it to diet and different things, but a lot is stress. Everybody will tell you, stress. We're born into a stressful situation in his life. And immediately, like GMAC referred to earlier, we have to start learning how to make lemonade from lemons. And in some cases, we don't even have lemons. I remember when I was a little boy, we didn't have Kool-Aid. We had sugar and water. That was Kool-Aid. And somehow we convinced ourselves that this was just as good as what everybody else was drinking. And we have always, as a people, had to do this. So what I'm asking is for those of you who have privilege, whether it's because of your race, if you care about all people, use your privilege in a way that is not stepping on others, that is not disadvantaging others, but that is creating advantages for those who don't have your advantages. It will make you feel better inside. It will give you a feeling that money can never buy. And there's much work to be done when we talk about Black Lives Mattering. Yes, we can protest in the streets, we can disrupt the status quo, but at some point, what we have to do is invest in the Black community. And speaking of investing in the Black community, I have a project that I'm launching. Actually, I've been trying to launch this project for some years now, to be quite honest with you. I want us to build something that can be example for the whole, not only Detroit, not only Michigan, not only the United States of America, but the entire world that want to come to Detroit and see what people in beloved community can build when they are using all of the principles that's in Kwanzaa. And that project is a housing / farming co-op. I want to start out small, because if we can do a small project and do it well, then we can replicate that project and expand that project. It'll be the prototype. I noticed my man Kojo Lee's an engineer is on using his language, prototype. I have a brother who's engineer too, so this is something that we can do, and not just talk about, but actually do. And so what I'm asking is to make a team of people after the holidays, of Kwanzaa, to keep the practice going, to keep the collective energy going, and to say, okay, if we want to develop a housing farming co-op, we're gonna need some land. First of all, we're gonna have to free the land. Isn't that what we say? Free the land. The land connected to our Mother Earth. It belonged to us. It don't matter that certain people have attached their own control over the land, taxes and property deeds and boundaries and all of this stuff and street signs. The land belonged to the people. It belonged to the animals. It belonged to the insects. It belonged to the flowers, the trees. The land is sacred. Just like the water is ours. And so if there are these systems in place that are preventing us from liberating ourselves and doing things that are going to help us, we have to be revolutionary in our approach toward these systems and push back. Because there's a gap between what they want us to do and have and what we need. Many of us know about this gap because we're struggling every day to live, to pay bills, to buy groceries, to do all of the things that we need to do to raise our children, to educate them, so on and so on. But we gotta have shelter. And collectively, if we share the burden and the responsibility for maintaining the shelter, this is what co-op is. Cooperating with each other. We can end up with abundance, with more and less burden individually. That's the main thing. If you in a tug of war contest and it's only you on one side of the rope pulling, how far you think you're gonna get? If you know that all of your trauma is on the other side pulling, it ain't gonna be long before you get dragged into the muck. But if you have other people, like the old African proverb say, many hands make for light work. If G Mac and Sherry and Aziz and Kojo and Catherine and Guisak and Beulah and Jenny and so many others is on the same side pulling, we stand a better chance of staying out of the muck. And we'll also not be as tired individually because we're pulling together. So in this project, we're going to say it's going to be universally designed. What does that mean? That means that anybody, regardless of their abilities, mentally, physically, can open windows, close windows, can go in the kitchen and do the things that you do in the kitchen, can use the bathroom facilities, can use the laundry facilities. Regardless of what your abilities are or are not.
Baba Baxter, can we pause right there?
Yes.
This is a really rich conversation, and we're starting to move into the second half of it.
Oh,
so it's great. It's great. That's why I didn't even really want to jump in. But I'm doing what you asked me to do, and I'm keeping us accountable to the time and to the order and the flow of the conversation. And so And honoring that at this moment, I wanna take a break, a quick break, and we want to queue up the other activity that we think will be, you know, useful in helping folks to again imagine or put yourself in the shoes of someone who may have challenges that you don't. And so, Sherry, you there with me? I know she there. She probably.
I'm here, G-Mac.
I know you there. Let's go to that page 11, number 2 activity.
Okay.
Are you able to share that on your screen?
It looks like I should be able to.
Okay.
Um,
While Sherry is working that out, I'm gonna cue the activity up for you all and let you know what we're doing. We're gonna take just a few minutes out and do a quick test. This is not a pass or fail. This is a test that you take. It should be pretty easy. The paragraph is presented, and all of the answers to the questions that follow the brief paragraph are in the paragraph. So this is just a straightforward comprehension type assignment where you just take a quick look at the paragraph, pick your answers from the information in the paragraph. And again, don't make it that deep for yourself. It's not a pass or fail. It's just an exercise. So, Sherry, you got that ready for the screen?
I believe so, G-Mac. I am on, and I'm just hitting share from my side, right?
Yep.
All righty. Let's go right on ahead, everyone. If you could feast your eyes on the screen, we're going to get ready to give you guys a very simple test. Very simple. All you have to do is read the paragraph and answer the questions. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. Okay. All right. Can everybody see that? And is it big enough? Maybe I need to go. Can everybody see the paragraph? Can you see it, G-Mac?
Yes, I can see it.
Is that better?
It's good.
Everybody see it? Okay. So you guys are going to have 5 minutes to read the paragraph and answer the questions. There's 6 questions down there that you guys can see on the screen. So it's a very simple test. Everybody just simply read the paragraph and answer the questions.
It's not simple.
My folks in Facebook land, you can zoom in a little more on your screen if you need to.
Let me see if I can zoom the view in a little bit for you guys.
Because I'm looking at it on the Facebook area and I see now that it's a little more difficult.
Is that better?
I think that would be great.
That's bigger?
Yeah, there's a small delay, but I'm sure that would be good.
Okay. So, yep, you guys have about 4 minutes left to complete this simple quiz. Just read the paragraph. Oh, you know what? They might not be able to see the questions.
They can see the questions, but
yeah,
we'll leave the paragraph maybe up there for a few more and then pull the questions up.
Yep. Because you guys, I mean, you should be done reading the paragraph by now. It's been about 2 minutes. So it's quick, simple, reading one paragraph and then answering a couple questions.
All right, I think we're ready to move to the questions.
Let's move to the questions because clearly, I mean, it shouldn't take anybody that long to read this simple paragraph. All right. So we're down to the list of questions here. If you guys want to type your answers in the chat too, you're more than welcome. Your answers to the questions. You know, if you just want to put one of those in there. Did it take my screen sharing off? Yes.
No, I see
you guys
it.
Can see it. You can see it?
Yeah, you're fine.
Huh, I can't see it. But you guys, if you guys can see the questions, we got about 1.5 minutes left for you to answer those questions. Are answers popping into the chat, G-Mac?
Looking at the comments section, I don't see any right this second.
Okay, if you guys want to just pop your answers into the chat, you can just put the number with the question you're answering and put the answer right in the chat for the simple quiz. Just a few more moments. We don't want to make something so simple take too long. Okay.
Yeah, with a few people Yeah, a few people were having trouble seeing the screen, but
Okay.
I think they're seeing it. Okay, so let's go ahead and end the screen share.
Okay. Stop my share. There we are.
So some people look like some people. I think I see an answer here,
Okay, I see one. I see. Yeah,
Brother Kojo
looks like Coach Joe answered.
has an answer to the question. Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
So
I got.
I think people are getting the drift of what's happening. So basically, we're saying that this is very simple. It's very straightforward. It's a paragraph. It's a comprehension assignment, basically on a 6th grade level. That shouldn't be that difficult for folks to do. We're not disclosing the fact that it's in German. I mean, and folks have figured that out, obviously. But the
Right.
bottom line is, moving through the planet with a cognitive disability, life could present itself to you the way that this German test presented itself. Like, what do you want me to do with that? I can't even read that language. And then you're being told that it's easy. It shouldn't take you that long. Come on, get up to speed. You got this. And the reality is, you don't have it because this is not a code that you can decipher for reasons beyond your control. And so the objective again of this exercise is to illustrate that you can be put into a situation where things don't make any sense at all to you in a very literal and figurative way. And you may have been in a different situation in your life prior to, or you may be a person who was born with that particular situation, but other people want you to get it. Now, we did this test and everybody on the call was German, they would blow through it in the 5 minutes, obviously, that we stipulated. But because no one on the call is, except for maybe Kojo, I think he had an answer, or at least he shot a shot at one, could do nothing with it. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I hope that was a helpful illustration to sort of like bring the idea home of what it's like to not be able to decipher a code or a set of instructions, but be told that you should be able to do it quickly. That being said, thanks a lot, Sherry, for your support and helping us pull that together. Our drummer, Germany Brown,
He's in.
has made his way to the Zoom, and he's ready to bless us on the drums. Now, before we bring him to the mic, I want to tee this up a little bit because I want y'all to know about this young man. He is the youngest black belt in Alkebulan Village martial arts history. He's 12 years old. He's been studying the martial arts since he was 2 years old. And he has acquired a mastery over the martial arts as well as the African drum. And so Sawande, Baba Sawande Keita, drumming royalty in our community, has been his instructor most of his life. And he's taking those lessons and he's gonna show y'all what he's working with. But more importantly, the ideal is this is an intergenerational and intersectional program. So we're gonna include youth and everything in between. So if y'all will send some strong love and energy and support to Germany Brown while he blesses us on the drums. All right, y'all. That's Germany Brown. Germany Brown on the djembe. Make some noise, make some noise. I wish we could clap and all of that, but you know, we in the virtual world. But send your strong energy and your cheers and applause for our youth, blessing us and bringing their energy into the space. That now having occurred, we'd like to get back into our conversation that we were having. And that's going to be taking us back to Baba Baxter, bringing us through the next key points of the discussion as it relates to disability being a blind spot for able people and the full-fledged description of the proposed project. Baba Baxter, you ready?
I always tell people I was born ready,
I know that's right.
because even if you're not ready, when you're born, it's your turn to take your bat. You got to come up to the plate ready to swing. And
Right
I say that because I with a silver spoon in my mouth. And so from a very young age, we had to be responsible. I was the oldest in my family. And I know that we had the ceremony where we pay tribute to the ancestor. I just want to show you. This was my grandfather. And my grandfather was born in Alabama. Look at his hands. That's a working man's hands. He was the oldest child. My grandfather was born in 1895. Now this man right here, that's my great-grandfather. He was also, as far as I know, born in Alabama. He was a farmer and had a big farm down in Alabama. He was married, had a lot of children, including my grandfather. And they worked this farm. My grandfather told us that he never went past the 3rd grade in school. And the reason he never went past the 3rd grade is because he was working on the farm. And when you're working on the farm, that's your livelihood, school comes second. You got to get your farm work done. And this was the way that they survived. This was the way they either survive or thrive, because there's a difference. As it happened with so many Black families in the South in the 1800s, and we're talking about after the period of Reconstruction, when there was a backlash and the rise of the Ku Klux Klan. They threatened my great-grandfather because they wanted his land. They wanted his farm. They didn't want him and his family to have it, because it was a sense of all of the principles that we talk about. There was unity on that farm. there was economics because they grew the crops and raised the animals and sold the products, and this is how they made a living. There was self-determination. Well, a lot of it wasn't self, because I'm sure that just like us, if you're a child and they tell you you got to get up in the morning and go milk the cows, a lot of times maybe you didn't feel like it. So a little bit of determination, little help on the determination, on the self-determination, on the coochie chocolate. But getting back to the most important part of why I showed you these pictures, because these are my ancestors. I'm their descendant. And because of them, I am. The connection is still there. One day, one very unfortunate day, the Klan came to my great-grandfather's farm and they set it on fire. And unfortunately, my great-grandmother was not able to of the farmhouse in time, and she was burned alive. This man's wife and this man's mother was burned alive. Now, I'm not exactly sure what I would have done if this had been my wife or my mother. But my grandfather, son, and at least one of his brothers, they took revenge on some of the Klan members. And it didn't turn out good for those Klan members. And as a result of that, because of the times, we're talking 1800s, late 1800s, they had to get out of Alabama. They had to leave, or they would have surely been hanged. And I'm sure many of you have relatives that at some point migrated from the South to the North, to Detroit and different places, seeking a better way of life, employment, a way to earn a living. My grandfather came up north because he was forced to leave. We had a better way of life, but he was forced to come here. And after going to Pennsylvania for a little while and working in the coal mines, he came to Detroit. In the 1920s, it was the biggest migration ever. It grew Detroit's population very, very large. And as most people, my grandfather found housing in Black Bottom, which is a section of Detroit now is prime real estate. Black Bottom, Lower East Side, parts of downtown Detroit. This is where you were steered toward back then, 1920s. Most of the housing was tenement housing. And my grandfather saved his coins and he purchased some land over in a nearby area called Paradise Valley, which were right across Gratiot over near where the Eastern Market is. And they began to build a house. Because my grandfather, even though I told you he was only third grade education, but he knew how to make lemonade. You hear me, G-Mac? He knew how to make lemonade and he knew how to teach everybody else how to make lemonade. And so every day they built this house. They dug the basement. They dug a well because back in those days, you could have a well and knew how to do all these things because of the training they had from his father. And they had small animals. They had a little small garden farm on this place. And so I tell you this story because this is my home, Detroit. I was born and raised in this city. I remember when this city had close to 2 million people at the height of its population. And now I have lived just like many other people through decades and decades of deprivation. Now I witness gentrification. When I think about how when Black people first come here, we were restricted to where we could live. Grand Boulevard is a street that's shaped like a horseshoe. If you draw a line from Belle Isle on the east side, all the way up to past 94 and into Midtown New Center, and then head, what's that? West, thank you. All the way down past the Lodge, past the Jeffries Freeway, past the 94 again. I'm not exactly sure where, but at some point it circle back around and go south to the river. It's like a big giant horseshoe. Black people were restricted to live inside that horseshoe. The first person that we know of to move outside that horseshoe was Dr. Ozian Sweet. He was a very prominent doctor and he made a lot of money. Because in those days, if you was a Black person, you were restricted as to who you could choose to be your doctor. So in some ways, segregation was prosperous for Black people because we were forced to do business with each other. and trust each other. You and they have no choice. And so Dr. Sweet bought a house on Garland Street. Some of you on the east side, you know where Garland Street is. It's outside the horseshoe. It's east of the boulevard. Now, I wasn't there when this transaction took place, but I can only imagine the white person that sold him that house was violating a covenant, a racist covenant, which said you cannot sell your house to a black person. But Dr. Sweet bought the house for 3 times the value. So whoever it was probably looked at the money. It was probably cash money, because you know Dr. Sweet couldn't go to no bank and get a loan. And the person probably said, this is so much money I cannot refuse. I'm going to just take the money and just leave Detroit, because if it got found out that he sold his house to a black man, I'm sure he would be punished. Whoever this white person was that sold him the house. But when the Ku Klux Klan, now think about this, this is 1925. The Ku Klux Klan was just everywhere, including Detroit. They found out that Dr. Sweet and his family was in this house, and they come to the house. You know how they did. You seen the movies and all the different stuff they have on the sheets, hiding their faces. They didn't want nobody to see who they was. Some people would say that kind of cowardice, but nevertheless, they had guns and they had fire. And they burned the cross on the lawn, and they said, Dr. Sweet, we know you're in there. Maybe they didn't call him by his name. They might have used that N-word. We know you're in there. Come on out of there. You don't belong here. You're violating the covenant. And so at some point, shots was fired. They say shots was fired inside, into the house, and then shots come out from the house. And some Klan members were killed. Or one Klan member, I'm not exactly sure. And so I just wanted to, there's more to the story, but they tell me I gotta really move on. There's really so much to talk about. But getting back to the co-op, this is a very, very important and dear project to me. That's all I'm saying. All of this stuff and introducing you to my family is all so you can see how attached I am to this, how important this is to me. So I want to start out with a small project, because big projects, it take a long time or longer time. So I'm thinking that if we can identify a house, preferably like a 2-family or duplex in the city of Detroit, preferably inside the horseshoe, the boulevard, because of the sentimental reasons, as I explained to you, the attachment to the land. In order to identify the property, we're going to need everybody who can to help out. to reach out, to figure out what's a good space. A space where there's already a sense of community. People looking out for each other. Can be a block club, neighborhood association, whatever. So when you start putting the bricks down and you don't finish, when you come back tomorrow, the bricks are still there. Because if you don't have a sense of community there, you come back tomorrow, those bricks are going to be gone. Because of the scarcity that have been created in our city and the mindset that we have to prey on each other. See, a lot of things we have to get past in order to build. But we can do it. I know we can, because we can make lemonade. I like that, G-Back. I'm just keep on using that. We know how to make lemonade. So I'm hoping we can identify a space. And then I'm also hoping that we can create what's called community land trust. And we'll talk about that at a later time. But community land trust is a way to secure and protect the land. Because as you know, in the city of Detroit, there's a lot of gentrification and a lot of land being set aside for those who have lots of money, resources that we don't have. And if it left up to them, they will buy up all the land. And then we will all be tenants. And when you're a tenant, you're there at the pleasure of the landlord. That's why I call it landlord, Lord, lording over you. To take away your freedom, your liberation. So when you have a community land trust, it's the best thing I know of right now, legally, that protect the land for all the people that's there. So we need to take a look at that. There are projects going on all over the city. And what I want to do is replicate this project in different places. And we want to do it in such a special way that people in different parts of the world will want to come and see what we're doing. And not only want to come and see, but want to be a part of it. That'll be universally designed in such a way, not just the minimum requirements for accessibility and accommodations. Not just the minimum. For example, if the minimum requirements say a doorway had to be 36 inches, why not make it 40 inches? Why not make it wider? So, universally designed, where people who have the need can be part of the lead in determining how this thing is going to be built. Who else can better design a wheelchair ramp or know what's needed than the person who's in the wheelchair, who's going to be using it every day. But oftentimes, due to ableism, they don't consult the people who have to use it. There's just like, it's like what they used to joke about men designing clothes for women. A man gonna make a bra for a woman and don't consult the woman about what's the most comfortable way to make this bra, brassiere, whatever you want to call it. You know what I'm saying? So that's a big mistake that's often made. And we don't want that to be the mistake made in this project. Because I know there are people out there that have the money and the resources and everything, and they say, oh, well, we're going to go ahead and do this. And you probably can, and you can build something, but it won't be what's needed. Because in order to know, you have to experience it. I'm just going to say this. The best art, whether it's music, drawings, painting, anything, it's done from a place of the person who has experience. When you listen to Miles Davis music, great trumpeter, when Miles is playing his trumpet, his horn, the experience of his life is flowing through his lungs and blowing into the music. You can't duplicate that because you haven't been through his experience. You can play his music, but it won't sound like Miles. That's what I'm saying. So I hope that you can understand where I'm coming from. And I'm asking you to join with us to extend the principles and of Kwanzaa into practice, the actual doing something that's going to make a meaningful change in the way we live, and that can be replicated over and over and over again. And that will help many, many people, whether they identify with their disabilities or not, as a disabled person. They know they need help. If you can't raise your legs up and walk upstairs without being in excruciating pain, then you need an alternative. You need accommodation. So this is going to be a beautiful, beautiful project constructed by a beautiful, beautiful community, beloved community. And it's going to make an improvement on our lives. Because when we improve someone else's life, it spills over into our life. Did I miss anything?
Baba, I think you nailed it. Because what happened, you brought up the nature of the project earlier in the speech, which would be section 4, but you just really covered everything that we had outlined for you to talk about. I didn't hear a lot. I don't think about victimization. I may have missed it, but I want to say, if I did, can we use the opportunity to maybe start the question and answer session off with a conversation about victimization, and then can we get the other co-hosts who are on the call, Baba Z, Mama Sherry, to monitor the comments that will be coming in to the Facebook page and feed them to Baba Baxter as questions. And I will too, but I just want to make sure we don't miss none, so that the questions and answer session will really be an interactive participation. Also bearing in mind that there's a lag, a short, like a 5-second lag between what we say and when it shows up there. So just keeping that in mind, the questions may be coming a little slower than where we are in the conversation.
Before we continue, I just want to apologize. I think it's necessary. I was hoping to have closed captioning for you, but something happened. We weren't able to do it. So we got to get better. I believe in continuous improvement on our processes and ways we do things, and we got to get better. So, Teddy, I will figure out another way. I know you can't. It is. So when it goes on YouTube, okay. Can somebody apologize in the chat for me to Teddy and tell him that this is being recorded and that he'll be able to see the closed captioning on YouTube? That's what I've been told. Because Teddy can't even hear me now, I don't think. But anyway, I was asked to talk a little bit about victimization, and I had a very, very good conversation with Z and some other people about the difference between being victimized and being a victim. And one of the things that we came up with is the comparison between being a slave and being enslaved. So, and the same thing can be said about being imprisoned and being a prisoner. Being incarcerated and being imprisoned and being a prisoner. You could be a prisoner of your own mind. And one of the things that you all know about me is, yes, I've been victimized a lot since I became disabled. I lost my job. I lost a very beautiful homestead that I had just purchased with 3 acres of land. I lost a lot of things through victimization. But in all of that, my spirit remained intact. Were there times that I cried? Yes. And nothing wrong with a grown man crying. I'm telling you right now. all those stigmatizations or whatever. But my spirit remained intact. It's not broken. And the reason it cannot be broken is because my spirit not be perceived by your mortal senses. You can't see it with your eyes. You can't smell it. You can't hear it. You can't touch it. You can't taste it. Because my spirit is so pure. It is the part of me that's connected to my nature, to my maker, to the Most High. That you cannot even come close enough to damage it or affect it. And so therefore, if I was born during a time like some of my ancestors when slavery took place, chattel slavery, let me put it that way, because some people would say that it's still slavery, a type of slavery. But during chattel slavery, I probably would have been whipped. There's no telling all the things that they would have done to try to break me. You saw the movie Roots when they had LeVar Burton, they had him tied up to the tree and they were whipping him. And the master say, you're gonna have a new name. Your name is gonna be Toby. Say your name. And because he was born Kunta Kinte, and he knew what his name was, he kept saying, my name is Kunta Kinte. And one of the enslaved people, older man who was wiser and had been in this land, this very brutal place where Black people had been in captivity. He came up, he told the master, said, Master, let me talk to him. And he went over to the Kunta Kinte and he said, listen, he said a lot of things, but the most important thing he said, listen here, you know who you are. Who you are is in your spirit, and no one can take that away from you. But for God's sake, tell this man what he wants to hear, because if you don't, he's going to kill you. That's a choice and a decision that you have to make in this world. Sometimes the choices are not good choices. They're not easy choices. So I've been told now that I've been talking a little bit too long, and time for some questions from the audience. If you're on Facebook and you can hear me, you can put your questions in the comment section. If you are on the Zoom call, you can put your questions in the chat. Any questions that you have about the proposed project any questions that you have about how this connects with Kwanzaa, the difference between, or the connection, the merging of ceremony, which we try to provide for you, with practice. And we're going to get much better at this. Maybe one day the Charles Wright Museum will partner with us and let us be a part. We don't know. Maybe so. Never know. And do a presentation there. But that's neither here nor there. But if you have questions that you want to talk to me about, you know, back and forth, now's the time in the program for that. And until I get some questions, I guess we can just keep on talking, right?
Let me say this real quick before we do that. We got, just to put it all in context, we got 6 minutes left to the 7 o'clock hour. And this, you know, goes right into the next Kwanzaa program that many people might be trying to get into. So to get the most out of the time and who we have here, seeing that we called for questions about 10 minutes ago. To this point, there has really not been any questions. I would say maybe send us off with a closing statement. After you, Baba Z is going to close us out with a Kwanzaa poem, and then we'll Harambe and wish everyone well. If everybody thinks that's a good way to go, I suggest that's how we wrap up.
So what I would say is this: if you are interested in this project and you would like to build with us, please contact us. You know how to reach us. You can reach us by Facebook. You can reach us by email. Some of you have phone numbers for us, but just reach out to us and let us know that you're interested in this project and being a part of something that I think is going to be very, very beautiful and extraordinary. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. So I'm excited, and I hope that you all are too. So Brother Z, you wanna close us out in ceremony here?
Sure, no problem, Baba Baxter. Appreciate the insight and all the information that you gave today. I think that's going to be helpful in moving forward for everybody, for us as a community. So this is a piece that I wrote a few years back because there are strangely very few number of Kwanzaa poems, right? Kwanzaa songs and those sorts of things. So as a spoken word artist, I want to give my contribution to that. So this is called "'Twas the 7 Days of Kwanzaa." 'Twas the 7 days of Kwanzaa, and all through the home, everybody was stirring because the celebration's our own. The children were nestled all snug in their threads while visions of red, black, and green danced in their heads. Mama colorful in her kaftan and dad in his kente as we anticipate the spirit of the next 7 days. When out on the lawn there arose such a clatter, I sprang from my chair to see what was the matter. Away from the window I flew like a flash, tore open the shutters and threw up the sash. When what to my wondering eyes should appear, my whole neighborhood unified and beaming with cheer. More rapid than eagles to the door I came as I shouted the whole Nguzo Saba by name. Umoja, Kujichakulia, Ujima, Ujama, Ania, Ankumba, Imani, it's Kwanzaa. The moon on the breast of the new fallen snow gave the luster of midday to the village below. The Kanara will twinkle over once the unity candles aflame, and will reflect on the village and the roles that we all play. Elders share stories as we honor young and old and pour out libations for the ancestors we uphold. We'll speak on empowerment, collective work, and faith, and how we must be twice as good to be considered average, and that's what makes our people so great. We'll exchange gifts with one another, and of course have a feast to celebrate the first fruits that our village will soon eat. We look forward to the future and thank our ancestors for life. Happy Kwanzaa to the village, and to the village, a good night.
Ashe. Thanks, Baba Z, for that dope piece as always. Doing it like only you do. I see we had a question from Ian Tran, but right now it's 6:58, and what we want to do is we want to offer to answer that question for you. I'm gonna pitch this to Baba Baxter. We're gonna offer to answer that question to you in the chat, or not in the chat, but on the Facebook. So we'll create a message response to your question, and the dialogue can continue there, so that we keep our program within the time frame that we set forth. So at this point, we like to end in Harambe. Harambe in Kiswahili is we all pulling together. And so we do it 7 times, each time getting a little louder. And the last time we hold it as long as we can until we let it go. So I'm gonna start us off. Harambe. Harambe. Harambe.
Harambe. Harambe. Harambe. Harambe.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, family. This is beautiful.
It really was.
Thank y'all. Appreciate this.
Thank you, D-Shock. Kojo.
So don't forget about the Charles Wright's Kwanzaa ceremony going on at 7 o'clock. And we're going to continue this. This is beautiful. I see all the beautiful faces and everything. Oh, man. Everyone. Yeah.
Thank you, Baba Baxter.
Thank you.
Thanks for calling us all together.
Thank you. Peace and love, everyone.